What's up, Nerfers, and welcome back to my channel, where today I'm taking a look at, and I've even tried upgrading, the world's most hated Nerf blaster, the Siren Maulr. I do find the brand name Siren quite fitting because, like the mythical creature, Siren lured in Nerfers and then drowned them in agony. This blaster is so disliked and sold so poorly that in some places in the USA, you can find it heavily discounted for only $12 US on toy store shelves. And for those of you who've been begging me to try the Akasha Super B-Car Nerf rifling on something cheaper than a Saber Ultimate $2,000 blaster, well, got something that's $12 today. Now, full disclosure up front, this is not a sponsored review like most of the others you'll see on YouTube. I didn't sign anything that prevents me from saying bad things about the blaster, so I'm gonna tell it exactly how it is today. I ordered this thing on Amazon myself with my own money. It did cost $100 Australian with the shipping included. That disclosure out of the way, the actual words I would like to use to describe this can't be mentioned this early into a YouTube video or you'll get demonetized. But here is a quick summary of everything that you guys hate about this blaster. When I put the question out there of what people hate about this blaster the most, the biggest one that came up was the ergonomics. This thing is built like a Boeing Dreamlifter. The top-down view reminds me of an old Super Soaker. It is unnecessarily bulky, thicker, fatter than it needs to be. Plus, the main grip is a massive square, harsh edges, very uncomfortable to hold in your hands. Even someone with massive hands is not going to enjoy that grip at all. As if to balance out the oversized square main grip, the front grip is actually too small for your hand. It fits about half of your hand on there. And if you undo the two screws on the sides, it reveals a white plastic piece that can't fit any other types of grips at all. There's no Picatinny rail segment like other pump action springers. It is a proprietary grip and you're stuck with this one unless you 3D print and design your own. Additionally, some people have had that white plastic bit snap in half on them, then you have no grip at all and can't even use the blaster anymore. The prime on this blaster is loud and crunchy. The worst I've ever felt on a Nerf blaster. Tough to convey on camera, but hopefully the sound of that is just so off-putting through the microphone. It's disgusting. Up the front, there's an ironic little warning not to shoot it closer than 25 feet. But if they really wanted us using this at longer ranges, they wouldn't have left the top rail so bloody wobbly. You put any kind of sight on here, it's just gonna rattle around and you're not gonna get a true zero out of your sight. Additionally, they wouldn't have sealed off the front of the barrel there, preventing us from adding any kind of rifling on. Though you can obviously see I've modified this and I'll show you what I did in a moment. I've heard a lot of reports of the pusher O-ring coming off and people replacing it with dart foam or other O-rings to fix that issue. I haven't had that happen myself, but I do have some testing to get through today, so fingers crossed that doesn't happen while I'm out here on the field. Now, amongst all those negatives, there is one positive about the blaster, something I haven't seen on any other Nerf Springer so far, and that is the adjustable FPS knob at the front here. Gives you 3 different power levels. So maybe you are playing at 130 FPS game and that guy's not calling his hits. You can dial it all the way up to 270 and give him a nice big welt as evidence to show the admins. Additionally, maybe you just want to trick the admins during the chrono test. Oh yeah, this thing only shoots 130 FPS. Get out on the field, crank it up to 270. Whatever your reason for using the adjustable FPS, the way that it works is it actually limits how far you can draw back the prime of the blaster. So if I move it back, now I can go back even further. Sounds good in theory until you see the chrono test in a bit where it shows how inconsistent the low and middle setting are. Also, the reason the prime is so crunchy is there's 3 different catch areas on the plunger rod. As you slide over those, it makes the crunchy sound. In fact, even on the high FPS setting, you can prime it just halfway if you want to and get a low FPS shot. Oops, this was meant to be a positive and I accidentally turned it into a negative. With all the main complaints covered, let's show you what I did differently to mine. Essentially, all I've done is extend the barrel, which allows me to attach some rifling for better accuracy. Out of the box, there's no way to attach any kind of rifling to this because they've got a muzzle on the front there, which sits in front of the barrel. So essentially, the only upgrade I'm doing to this today is adding the best Nerf rifling on the market, Rexfire's Akasha Super B-Car, onto it. We'll see if that can carry it from being a terrible blaster to being a good one. I was actually looking forward to my first time modding in years. That was until I got it open. After firing a total of only 45 shots through it for some stock config testing you'll see in a bit, it was already full of plastic shavings, which the camera doesn't actually show very well at all. With the naked eye, you could see every single one of them. It looked absolutely disgusting inside there. Green specks everywhere. On top of that, the entire inside of the blaster was coated in an absolutely disgusting metric fuck ton of lube, which made it an incredibly unpleasant experience to handle the internals. I laid down a towel for it like a gentleman and got to work. Removing the stock 44cm barrel was easy. There's just a screw on the reverse side that holds it in. To install my longer 55cm barrel, I had to take this plastic muzzle piece and drill it out. I used a 5/8 drill bit, slightly smaller than the 16mm diameter of the barrel, so that it went on really tight and it will actually help hold the barrel in. Combined with the screw, it ended up being plenty tight enough that the barrel's not coming out of there. One final touch to help reduce the wobble of the Picatinny rail, I ran a line of super glue down one side of it before placing it back in. It honestly didn't help very much at all. The Picatinny rail is still wobbling around quite a bit there, so we'll see how that affects the accuracy test later on. I then spent the next half an hour trying to get the Mauler back together while still keeping the adjustable FPS working, but eventually I succeeded. By the end of my modding, I was left with 10 centimeters of exposed aluminium barrel out the front of it, plenty enough to add the Akasha Super B car, best rifling on the market. But is the Akasha good enough to redeem the Siren Maulr? Let's go find out. Here's some before and after testing, starting with the Chrono test, obviously filmed on different days. Okay guys, for the stock config today, before I open this up and modify it, I'm gonna do the 3 different power levels, all with 1 gram nitro shot darts, so standard weight darts. Let's see what it does on the low power to start with. Here goes. 85, 102, 99, tiny little baby velocities. That one didn't even read, it was so slow. 129, 103, 49, 116, 127, 139. Very inconsistent on the low power setting. Moving to medium power now. So how this actually works is it reduces how far the plunger can move, which is not a very good way of reducing power, not for consistency anyway. You're gonna get the most consistency with that full plunger moving in a moment. Mid power is getting 205, 181, 179, 207, 192, 198, 200, 183, 202, 203, and now I'll switch it to full power, which should get the most consistency out of this plunger tube, and hit a bit higher too. 273, 269, 273. The actual trigger is a little bit harder to pull now too. 264, 278, 272, 262, 268, 265, 270. It's actually quite consistent on the highest power setting. Restricting the draw of your plunger definitely reduces that consistency. Okay, time jump. We're now a week later. I've done the mods. We've got the longer barrel, got the Akasha on there. I have noticed that at the lowest 100 FPS power, the darts are getting stuck in the Akasha now. So I'm gonna skip the low power test, go straight to mid power, and then we'll do the high power after. So we'll be a little bit slower because we have a rifling attachment now, adding friction, but let's see how it does on mid power. 153, 141, 140, 135, 134, 138, 137, 184, 135, 185. So you can see it is still not very consistent on the mid power. Let's go to the high power, see how it does. 246, 234, 224, 231, 228, 227, 227, 242, 240, 226. That's all 10 shots. We have lost some FPS, obviously, by adding both a P car and a B car rifling, but let's head inside and see what the exact differences were, and then we'll do the accuracy test. Over the Chrono, stock config low power averaged 105 feet per second with an utterly terrible standard deviation of 27. Some shots went as high as 139, some as low as 49. I can't recommend using the low power setting at all, even in its stock configuration out of the box. Mid power averaged 195 feet per second with a much more consistent but still not the greatest standard deviation of 10. You'd get far better consistency out of something actually designed for 200 feet per second, such as a worker seagull or anything similar to that. Stock config high power was actually quite impressive. It averaged 269, nice, with a very consistent standard deviation of 4. Now, as we take a look at the modded results, I suspect the barrel is a little too long now, as I did lose some consistency. Mid power got a bad standard deviation of 19 and an average of 148. Even high power, the 55cm barrel, was a little too long because it has a slightly worse standard deviation of 7 now. The average has dropped to 232 as well, so when modding this yourself at home, I recommend cutting your barrel to the exact length you need to fit your rifling, which in my case would probably mean removing about 5cm of barrel. Despite the results here looking like the mods were a downgrade, just wait and see how it changes the accuracy. I think you're going to be quite surprised. Okay, 30-meter accuracy test, or 100 feet in freedom units. I'm swapping to Sabre 1.3 gram tournament darts for the accuracy because they are more readily available to me than nitro shot, which are only sold in the US. They're the same exact accuracy at this distance as the nitro shot, so you're not seeing anything different there. I'm also filming this on a different day than the modified accuracy test. Obviously, I need time to do the mod. Now, if I haven't fully sold you on the Siren Maulr yet, it is just that good of a blaster. Look how sturdy this top rail is. It doesn't move at all. It's going to be perfect for our accuracy testing today. Just above the white cross in the middle there. With no rifling, mind you. A little more to the right now. Off to the left. Those first two shots had us believing that it didn't need rifling. I mean, some of these are going in where you actually want them to. It's actually one of the best blasters with no rifling that I've tested before, but it's still not great. A little short of the target there. Another short one, that one just nose dived down to the ground. That's all 15 shots. Okay guys, time skip again. We have the longer barrel on there and the Akasha Super B-Car rifling. This should make a huge difference to the accuracy compared to having nothing. I'm sticking with the Sabre 1.3 gram T-darts. I have thousands of those compared to only hundreds of the nitro shot I used in the Chrono test. These also have a little bit more range, so more likely to make it to the target with that FPS drop. Here goes. Keep in mind as well, the super glue did not really fix the top rail there at all. So I'm careful to wait till it stops wobbling. That's actually impressive. For a sight that's wobbling all over the place and a $12 blaster, that is quite an impressive improvement. Don't know if you can tell on camera just how much that sight's wobbling, but even if I try and hold it steady, it still is. Still very impressive though. I just noticed when I pulled back the pusher then for that next shot, the pusher O-ring came straight off of it and landed in my hand. That's going to be a pain in the ass to get back in. Quick update. It actually only took about 10 seconds to put back in because it's so easy to fit over the pusher. It really should be a thicker, smaller O-ring so that it fits on tighter. Impressive hits though. That was a little bit lower. That's all 15 shots. Let's take it inside and see the difference before and after. From 30 meters or 100 feet away, the stock config with no mods was utterly terrible. The spread was larger than the size of the target, measuring 115 centimeters from furthest point to opposite furthest point. And with a simple barrel extension mod to allow attaching Rexfire's Akasha Super B car, that grouping shrunk to a height of 50 centimeters and an incredibly small width of only 18 wide. With the rifling attached, the shots now all fit within an IPSC human torso target, and that's from 30 meters or 100 feet away. Akasha has really put in some work today. But how about the Siren Maulr? Is this a blaster you should even consider buying? Look, to be real with you for a minute here, even if someone offered to give you one for absolutely free, and you had all the parts, motivation, and desire to get covered in lube upgrading it, it's still an utter piece of shit of a blaster. Even with this improved accuracy, the ergonomics still suck. The wobbly Picatinny rail may have actually made the accuracy worse in this test than it could have been. And don't forget about the O-ring coming entirely out of the blaster. I had heard it could happen, mine looked fine to me when I had it open, but lo and behold, it came off during my testing. At this point, I've only put around 100 shots through it, and if I hadn't have caught the O-ring in my hand, this blaster would be utterly useless to me until I got it home and found a suitable replacement in an O-ring kit. Steer clear of the Siren, don't fall for its song. All it's going to do is drown you in terrible ergo, parts breaking, and your own sorrows. If you still want to get one for some reason, I'll put the link I used down below, it's an Amazon link, plus everything else that I used in the video. If you haven't already, go get yourself an Akasha Super B car, either from Rex as the 3D printer version, or wait for the metal version from Out of Darts. It fits on any hobby grade 16mm outer diameter barrel blaster. I also recommend picking up some Saber T darts, and you'll see your accuracy improve just like it did with the Siren Maulr. That's all I have for you today. Like, comment, subscribe, and all of that. Here's 2 other videos you might enjoy, and as always, thank you very much for watching. See ya.